Let's bring in MS Now senior national security reporter David Rohde and Hagar Shamali, former spokesperson for the U.S. mission to the UN. David, I'm going to start with you. Just walk me through, where does the ceasefire agreement even stand in the midst of these attacks? The president insists this isn't a return to war, but that sort of seems like what we're seeing.
It's a return to low-level war. So this ceasefire agreement was signed on June 17th. Weeks have gone by, and you have intensifying attacks now. There are reports of some strikes possibly in Jordan as well. So it's Iran, again, trying to respond aggressively to the U.S., and the U.S. is trying to respond aggressively to Iran, seizing ships in the Strait of Hormuz. And all this means that the several weeks of negotiations that have gone on haven't made much progress. President Trump talked about things, that the United States can win this war, is winning this war, and I just don't think that's an accurate statement. That's an accurate statement in terms of what's been happening. And then most importantly, oil prices are up. Ships are not getting through the Strait of Hormuz. So the answer apparently from the administration is dropping more bombs. That hasn't worked before, and we just have to see what happens in the days ahead.
Hagar, is the U.S. trapped in this cycle of trying to inch toward peace, but then resorting to these attacks that just do not seem to deter or fundamentally change the Iranian regime's stance and position in these talks? Who's really in control in your view right now?
Sure, Antonia. Well, it's complicated, to be honest with you, and it's going to remain that way for the foreseeable future as long as the regime remains in place. So you're going to see this kind of up and down, this volatility for a while. And the reason is that you have a few things playing out here. On one hand, the Iranian regime is overplaying its hand. They think that they are winning. They think that the fact that they survived means that they stand tall. And so that grandeur makes them feel that they can still squeeze out more out of the MOU, that there's more to squeeze out of a deal. And to be honest with you, that's not really surprising given how the Iranian regime negotiates. They negotiate like terrorists. And so you're seeing that play out, but it is very predictable. And on the U.S. side, the U.S. has a lot of military might that it could expend if it wanted to. For example, it could threaten to take Karg Island. That is an island in the north of the Strait where Iran produces and refines most of its oil. But they're not doing that, and I understand why. We've already expended a lot of U.S. national treasure. The war is not popular, and we have midterm elections coming up. So Trump and Iran both, by the way, have an interest in kind of kicking the can down the road, watching things go up and down for a while. Trump is obviously very motivated by gas prices. As David mentioned, gas prices have already gone up. And what we're going to see is maybe a shift after the midterms. But until then, it's really a tug of war between Trump and the Iranian regime.
But do you think, Hagar, that because they both want to kick this can down the road, but Iran seems to have one fundamental thing on their side right now, which is time. Trump has to think about these midterm elections. He has a democratic political process, and he has people he has to respond to, polls that he's concerned about. The Iranian leaders, they don't have to worry about any of that stuff. They're not worried about how the people they sort of lord over feel about this whole situation and may punish them for it in the future. And does that sort of benefit of time and the sort of top-down leadership there mean that they, in fact, do have the cards?
So on one hand, yes, in that the Iranian regime is, at this moment, time is on their side and not on ours. You are right about that completely. But it depends a little bit. So, for example, if the MOU falls apart entirely and sanctions are snapped back, there was a waiver that allows them to sell oil immediately. So if that snaps back and the Iranian regime remains in this situation where it is bankrupt, it has no military or navy, it has lost 50 of its leaders, and its Ayatollah is practically incapacitated, and the fact that the majority of Iranian people despise the regime, then over time, that doesn't bode well for them. They're standing at the edge of a cliff. That doesn't mean it's very immediate, though. So I want to be very clear here that I'm not trying to say that the regime is on the precipice of falling. But that said, the regime also knows that. And on the other hand, they see that gas prices have gone down. They see Lebanon and Israel making progress, and they don't like that. So they're trying to gain leverage again. The moves that they pursued to strike vessels in the Strait of Hormuz, which launched all of this, is in fact a move of weakness. So that's why you're going to see this up and down. So I'm hesitant to say that one side has all the leverage. It's more complicated than that, and it's going to go up and down for the foreseeable future.
I want you to take a listen, Hagar, to the president overnight saying that Iran does want to make a deal again.
They called a little while ago. They want to make a deal. don't know if they're worthy of making a deal. I don't know that they're going to honor the deal. That's
if they want to make a deal, why do you think they attacked commercial vessels?
because it's not crazy, to be honest with you. It's not crazy. They're a little bit out of control, but they want to make a deal.
Do you believe that they called the president, that they want to make a deal? It seems at this point like we've been in this cycle over and over and over again.
That's right. Where this cycle is like Groundhog Day. No, I don't. But I mean, maybe they called him. I have no idea. But I do not believe that they want to make a deal at all. I think that they want to buy as much time as they can and survive Trump out in the hopes that the next American president is more lenient toward Iran. Because as you said earlier, time is on their side, and it allows them only to rebuild, rearm, re-strategize, repress their citizens even further. That's the biggest losers in this are the Iranian people, by the way. So no, I don't think they actually want a deal. They might want to do something just to buy themselves time, but it won't take them very long to break that deal. And President Trump, by the way, seems to know that.
David, on his way back from the NATO summit, President Trump flew to a U.S. base in the United Kingdom to swap out his Qatari Force One and to go back to the original plane, it seemed. And I want you to take a listen to him answering questions from reporters about this.
Do you think there wasn't a security concern?
No.
Was there any other issue? No issues with the plane?
No, except we sent it a little early. Same line going back. And we sent it a little bit early so that we could let them see it. The base, the whole base came out and saw the plane.
So, David, you've done some reporting around this. What was behind the switcheroo?
Yeah, so along with our colleagues, with Carol Leonnig and Priya Sridhar and Ken Delanian, we all heard versions of this was actually an issue with the security of the new plane. This is the Qatari jet that was gifted to the president by the ruler of Qatar. And the issue was that the Secret Service recommended that plane not be used. By the time President Trump took off from Turkey, U.S. airstrikes were beginning or going to begin. And the new plane apparently doesn't have the secure communication systems that the old plane had. And it also doesn't have the sort of air defense systems that the old plane had. So that's why he took the old Air Force One, which the presidents have been using for years, back to the U.K. And then once he landed in the U.K., he switched from that onto the new Air Force One, the Qatari jet. But this is just an example of what experts warned us from the beginning, that this new plane, it was going to cost a lot of money to retrofit it, and that it also didn't have a lot of these systems that are in the existing Air Force Ones, and that, you know, it's a better looking, I guess, new plane. But this showed how important it is to have communications and mostly have the safety of the president when the U.S. is at war with Iran.
Yeah, when this story broke about the prospect of the plane, this was basically the first thing that experts warned all of us at MS Now. David Rohde and Hagar Shamali, good to see both of you, and thank you.